episode of True Tales. This story is a story of a test of love. It is a true story, and it really happened. One day, I was in my office in my Vista home, studying for law school. I was typing at my desk, and then all of a sudden, I started to get flashes of a friend of mine. Let's call her Janet. I kept seeing Janet in my mental screen. And the feeling to contact Janet was so strong that I stopped what I was doing and texted Janet and said, "Hey, I keep getting images of you in my third eye. What's going on?" Janet says, "I'll call you back later. I'm at the hospital." So, not too long after, Janet calls me back. Now, this story changed my life. This story changed my future. So Janet and I get on the phone, and I say to Janet, "Janet, what is going on with you? I keep seeing you in my mind's eye." And she said, "I just got out of the hospital and I've been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer." I was completely shocked to hear this of Janet. And all of a sudden, from deep within the wells of my being, my soul reached my conscious mind and began to communicate through my mouth. And I said to Janet, "Janet, you do not have cancer. You created this. Now tell me why you created this." And she started crying. And I said, "Be honest with me." And she said, "Well, I don't know if my husband loves me." And it was incredible for me as a practitioner, as a person, to say to somebody, "You don't have cancer. You gave this to yourself." What a crazy, insensitive, rude, stupid thing to say. That's how I felt in the back of my mind. This is crazy. Why would you say that to Janet? But then I went further. I trusted with full faith that whatever was going to be said next was going to reveal the cause of her cancer. And now remind me, when I say her, she said my cancer. And immediately I corrected her and I said, "It is not your cancer. Say the cancer." And then I said, "You created this as a test for your husband." I said, "Tell me, how has your husband been since you got diagnosed with cancer?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, we've never been more in love. He has dropped everything and taken care of me. I am so happy to be with him." And then I said, very direct, very curt to her, "So you don't need this cancer anymore. You proved to yourself that your husband loves you." She was taken aback. She said, "You're right." And I said something to her that I learned from my clients in my coaching career that I coached, who were biomedical scientists, who were geneticists, who were pharmaceutical makers. And these clients told me something. They said that inside of your DNA is the propensity for any kind of disease. If you have the key to unlock it, you could unlock it. But if the medicine that you create can unlock the solution, it can fix it. And I said to her what I just told you. And I said, "This is what I've learned from my clients who are cancer researchers. This is what they've told me." They said they make medicines that fit like a key, and then they correct the DNA, they correct the way that the body produces disease and healing. And I said, "You're going to take your chemo, you're going to do your medicine, you're going to do everything the doctors tell you to do, but this is the homework that I'm going to give you." I said, "You're going to imagine that the results that you get on a piece of paper in your mind are negative. You gave yourself the cancer, you can take it away." Again, in the back of my head, I'm going, this is the craziest stuff I've ever uttered out of my freaking mouth. And if this woman dies, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my freaking life. What an idiot thing to say. I'm really, from the back of my mind. But I feel very led to tell her these things. I said, "You're going to imagine that these results are negative. You gave it to yourself, you can take it away. Do everything that the doctors do, take the medicine, follow the protocol. But remember, you proved to yourself that question. Your husband loves you. and all is well. And I remember getting off the phone with her. I texted her some affirmations for her to say to correct her way of thinking, telling her not to say my cancer and this and that. Now, there were some other things that happened in the conversation related to her feelings about her mother and her family and people who in her life had died of cancer. And I said to Janet, just because your grandparents died of cancer doesn't mean you have to. Who told you you had to die of cancer just like them? But she identified herself with that. So I said these things to her. I gave her some affirmations. I made her just reevaluate her perspective of her health. And I got off the phone with her. And I heard a voice saying to me, I'm going to heal her. And when I do, you're going to drop everything and you're going to follow me. I'm going, follow who? Spirit. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, get rid of my lucrative coaching career, getting paid $300 an hour to coach celebrities and lawyers and executives. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to stop making that kind of money? Fast forward a few months, I get a text message from Janet. Janet says to me, hey, Leslie, I got my blood test results and there is no cancer in my blood. There is no evidence. Oh, God, that set me on a existential crisis for the next several months. I had to call all my top clients and fire them and say, and tell them the story. I told one of my clients, he was a lawyer, a disaster lawyer for the United States. He was a consultant when there's ecological crisis. I said, look, this is what happened. This is the story, and this is what I got to do. And by a miracle, this man of reason, this man of logic says to me, you know, I'm a man of faith, and I believe that what you're telling me is the truth. So good luck to you. Jana didn't have the cancer anymore. Her results were clear. She's even more in love with her husband than ever. And that was a few years ago. And guess what? Janet is still alive. So I don't have a medical explanation for this. They call it in science a spontaneous remission. It might be that. I'm open to any explanation. But that's what happened. And that is the true story of how Janet gave herself cancer and uncreated it. We create it and we uncreate it. And I think sometimes it's very difficult for us to accept the fact that we create our own conditions. And I'm talking the internal conditions of our life, how we feel and how we think, our home and our world and our mental environment. I don't think that many of us want to take personal responsibility, but we have to. And after that experience, when I quit all those clients and basically stopped coaching and taking money, that was tough. I was stressed. I said to myself, how am I going to make all this money? How am I going to be able to do this? I'm going to law school. I have my little business. I work a few hours. I make the money I need. Life's good. But I had to stop taking money for coaching. Lo and behold, not even a month later, my husband got a raise so big that he said to me, you don't have to work anymore. And I mean a huge raise, a life-changing raise. So, how do you explain all that? But that's my life. These are the things that happen. Sometimes you have to step in faith. And when you get a feeling to call somebody, you call them. If you get this big, deep feeling, this feeling of truth, and you need to say it, be brave enough to say it. And when you have your intuition tell you to take a leap of faith, take it. Jump. Because what you might be jumping to is going to be better than where you were jumping from. And may I say, in conclusion, that you got to believe that life is magical, that life is always and evermore getting better and better every day in every way. Can I get an amen? So that is my true tale. Have you ever had an experience like that? I want to know. Share with me in the comments. Thanks for joining me. I'm Leslie Juvin-Acker.